it's different, and we'll get into in just a few minutes how it's different from other Star Wars. We're going to talk about that. But first, it is time for News from the Stars.
From the farthest corners of the galaxy and every channel on the holonet, we bring you News from the Stars.
So I came across this article the other day, or rather Google sent it to my phone in the form of a notification. And the title of this article really intrigued me, and I had to include it. It's from Bounding Into Comics, written by Slade Hill, and you know it's going to be good when it's written by a guy named Slade. But the title is Star Wars Andor Triple Episode Debut Review, The Epitome of Terrible.
Really?
And I thought,
that's pretty hardcore.
Okay, consider me intrigued. I want to know why you hate this so much. And it's worse than I thought. I'll just preface it by saying that it's bad. So he says Andor is a bad show, and we're only 3 episodes in. The set designs are boring. Are you serious? Like, really? But I'll continue. The set designs are boring, bland, and uninspired. The supporting characters feel wooden and uninteresting, and the story is just plain awful. Worse, Lucasfilm's attempt to shake up the Star Wars formula and turn it into something more gritty and adult ends up robbing it of whatever semblance of magic was left in the franchise.
Really?
Okay.
All right. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like somebody who's been ingesting Marvel shows for too long and wants to be wowed and awed with particle effects in their face.
Hey, Slade, how is She-Hulk going for you?
I have not bothered to. Nope, not even a little bit.
Yeah. So, it's just overly harsh. And when they said that about the set designs, I was like, "Are you serious?"
Like, go back to that comment again. Pull that up. The supporting characters feel wooden and uninteresting. They do feel wooden. I'll give them that. But that's because their life is so hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the acting is great.
Yeah,
the acting is great. They're playing their parts. They do. That's what they do. Oh, hey, so I hear Sus T in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, just. They go on. Here's where they talk about what they liked about the show. Okay, this is the good. The good. I make the claim with absolutely no hubris, malice, or bias that there is absolutely nothing good about Andor. It's a horrible, plotting, boring, meaningless creation with absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Expectations for the show were already quite meager, but it's hard to believe Andor could cram in so much failure into one production. That was the good.
Really?
That they had nothing good to say.
Clearly, this guy
show.
just wants to be talked about, and it's working.
Congratulations, Slade Hill. What was his name? Slade Hale. Okay. My goodness. So he said there is absolutely nothing good about this show at all. Can you guys each think of one thing that would be good to the general population, even if they don't know something about Star Wars? I'll start. The guy got shot in the face. That's pretty interesting. Father Time, what do you think? One good thing about this show to a normal person?
I don't know what normal people want, though.
Okay, what from a normal TV show, like a every day you turn on the TV.
Yeah, it's a suspense. There's a mystery. We don't know what's happening.
There we go. There we go. Charlie, what do you think?
You add in the more realism jobs. You're living on a heck of a planet that requires a lot more day labor, but at the same time, add in the Star Wars flavor where you get a guy that's really enthusiastic about how he goes through the morning and evening of the.
Yes, yes. That guy's really cool. Okay, all right, Israel.
He is
what do you
so
think?
into that.
I was wondering if they were going to use that for in the trailer.
I love it.
So
I
happy.
love it. All right, Israel. One good thing.
I think that the character progression, even in just these first 3 episodes, is really interesting. I think the official from the corporate entity was really interesting, and I also think that Tim, for his short, crappy character development, actually was an interesting character because of it. Like, he was this guy who was infatuated with a lady, and he got jealous and did some stupid things as a result. And I think that character development or anti-development or whatever you want to call it was actually an interesting little arc, and that I think normal people would be interested in that.
Yeah, it brings the realism, which I think is the through line between this show so far, is the realism between the sets and the characters and the locations and the plot devices. It's just how normal people would react in these situations. We all know a guy that would get jealous like that, and if we don't, we can imagine that being a real person. There's a whole lot of realism there, but we're not done with this article just yet.
Really?
The most unforgivable aspect of Andor is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars in any way, shape, or form. Also, I will point out, they forgot the Oxford comma after shape. So, Slade, get your stuff together. In fact, it is so far removed from everything that makes Star Wars what it is as to become some character in its own right. The set designs, lighting, pacing, editing, even the music move purposely away from Star Wars while ripping off Blade Runner wholesale, I might add, and tossing in a dash of Wall-E and Apocalypto for laughs.
I did see Wall-E.
Wow.
I did see Wall-E for sure.
Right. But, okay, I love the soundtrack. The music is so cool.
Yeah, no.
Even when he goes into the brothel in the first episode and it's playing like the club music, that reminds me of Lower Terrace in the KOTOR games. I don't know if you guys remember that. But like the soundtrack is really cool. And sure, we hear like drums. Okay. So what? It's a TV show. It's a little bit different. Now if they put like rock music into a Star Wars movie, like a theater released movie, sure, I might have a problem with that. But for a show, like the music is cool. And what else did he say here? It doesn't feel like Star Wars in any way. What? Where do you get that? Does this feel like Star Wars to you guys?
Absolutely. Again, you were talking about the bell ringer earlier, and that kind of a thing is totally is so in line with Star Wars. To have this ultra technologically advanced society doing something the backwards way is like the most Star Wars thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something I've always wondered as far as like the technology. Is the progression of technology that we've experienced in our world the only way the technology could have progressed, or is there a way that an alternate reality of our Earth could have gotten to the point where we have smartphones, but no one ever thought of airplanes? Like they haven't developed one technology, but they have excelled in another technology. And Star Wars feels like that to me. They've excelled in space travel, in hyperdrives and levitation technology, but like screens and readouts and communication is so far behind what we have here in America.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I've always wondered that about Star Wars. And someone pointed out to me, I think, actually, they didn't point out to me, it's something I saw. Adam Savage from Mythbusters was talking about the design of spaceships and how it's set apart from Star Trek. Star Trek is our world, but in the future. And so all the ships are nice and polished and professionally built. Star Wars is a dystopian past where everyone is scrambling for resources. So you see mismatched panels and stuff stuck onto the sides of ships and nothing looks polished. And when it does look polished, it really stands out. I'm thinking of the Naboo cruiser, the all silver shiny one.
Yeah.
And that distinguishes royalty. But it's very interesting. Like I've always wondered, is our progression of technology that we have here the only way that technology ever progresses? Or is there, Edison never invents the light bulb, and so we're still using candles, but we have smartphones? Something along those lines. It's a very interesting dynamic that I've always wondered.
Slade Hill, or whatever his name was, mentioned that he didn't like the set design, and I'm like the first thing that popped into my head when I heard that,
hate.
whatever his name is. The first thing that popped into my mind.
Just the fact that you called him Sledge Hate.
Oh, it is so good. That's not where it's really good.
Let me tell you where it's really good. Right?
Not wrong.
So he is complaining about the set design, and the first thing that popped into my head was Tim's dumpy little apartment. And he's probably thinking, man, couldn't they have done a better set to give this guy a better apartment? But they couldn't have given him a better set. That's exactly what a junky little apartment would be in that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, it has to feel real and grounded, and it absolutely does, even if it comes... What did you call him? Sledge Hate?
Yeah.
I love it. That's so good. I think I got one more slide in this article, his finishing remarks. Not only is Andor easily the worst Disney-owned Star Wars property to date, that's saying something, it's also one of the worst sci-fi shows I have ever seen. Ignore all the talk about political and social underpinnings tacked onto the story by woke writers. None of that even matters because Andor is an overwhelmingly bleak, boring, and aimless show with nobody to root for. Of course, we're only 3 episodes in, but the thought of grinding through another 9 makes me want to beat myself over the head with a hornet's nest. Yes, the series will bring back characters like Saw Gerrera, but to what end? Andor is so bad that it doesn't even mimic the properties of Rogue One, which is considered by most to be the only shining success of Disney's Star Wars lineup. Well, thank you, Sledge Hate.
Wow.
Punch him right in the Clovis.
I was thinking that same thing.
Punch him right in the Clovis. I got yeeted. All right, so I just had to share.
There's a sip for you,
guys.
Sledge. There you go.
Here, all right, Mr. Sledge Hate. Here's a sip for you. Oh man.
Laugh.
Well,
crazy.
I just had, you guys know I had to bring you the news from the stars.
From the farthest corners of the galaxy and every channel in the holonet, we bring you news from the stars.